Good afternoon. My name is Nanette Zanowick, the mother of Corporal Paul W. Zanowick II. We called him Rocky. He was killed in action in Afghanistan, June 3rd, 2011. And this is my husband.
And I'm Paul Zanowick. Our son was an awesome, caring young kid as a kid, and he liked helping other people. He would make somebody know and believe that they could be more than what they are. And so he ended up considering and thinking about and talking about military. And he went through school, and he decided he was going to join a service, and he chose the Marine Corps. November, December-ish of 2007, he says, I'm going in and I have the date. And so on January 21st, 2008, he left home to go join the Marines and went to Parris Island for boot camp. So he came home, he got to come home for a little bit, and we visited, and then he had to go right into Marine Corps infantry school, and did, and left again. And he got hurt early on in training, broke his ankle. He ended up meeting a few people in there that were become part of our lives in ways, but one of them was a young lady who was a Marine who also was injured, and so that relationship blossomed. And a few months later, got a phone call that they were getting from her that they were getting married, and so we dropped everything and left and went to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
For an outdoor wedding.
For an outdoor wedding.
The next day.
They got married.
And then he got stationed in California.
Yeah. They went out to 29 Palms, California, and Paul continued training, and everything was going well, and ended up the year where he got a phone call that the baby was born on August the 19th of 2009. He actually left to go to Afghanistan on October 4th of 2009, which was their first year anniversary, and he left to go to Afghanistan. It was a difficult deployment, but they suffered minimal casualties, and came home came home okay. And then we had an opportunity to go out in March of 2011 to see him before they deployed, and it was a somewhat sobering kind of a visit because we knew that it was not going to be a good deployment, and then there was a lot of tension. They weren't there but about 6 weeks when we had Marines come visit us. They don't have to tell you.
No. As soon as you see them,
you know. So we suffered a parent's worst nightmare, losing a child, and complicated because he gave his life.
Then we went out for their welcome home in October of 2011. The Marine Corps flew Rocky's, his unit, got back, and they flew Paul and I out to 29 Palms so we could be there when they got back. And we were there for the formal ceremony, and we stayed the next day for the Purple Heart ceremony. Paul and I are with the other Gold Star families up under this shelter where we had been sitting for the service, and all these Marines exit stage left. I mean, they're all running that way. They're on leave. They're getting the heck out of there. And we're standing there watching this flood of bodies go that way, and all of a sudden here's one young man running back. And he ran right up to me, and he talked to me. I could see on his shirt the name Erlandson, so I knew exactly who he was. And he gave me his Purple Heart and then took off running. The morning of the day that Rocky was killed, there was a firefight.
We took over an empty compound and ran patrols out of there, and we got ambushed and got in a firefight. Enemy stopped firing, so we moved away started moving back to our outpost that we were working from. And then we got told that we were going to go back out to the same place, which is something you don't really ever do. We went back out and we got ambushed again. Took fire from multiple different directions. If I remember right, I was in a kneeling, looking one direction. I turned, and as soon as I started to get up, I felt something hit me in the back of my shoulder, and pretty much felt like someone hit me in the back of my shoulder with a baseball bat. I knew immediately what it was. I dropped to a knee, and I was yelling, "I'm hit," and the guy behind me grabbed me by the back of my flak jacket and pulled me to some safety, and they started working on me. Started bandaging me up and everything like that, and then they had some guys come over with a stretcher, and they had all my gear stripped off, so I was pretty much just in my pants and my boots. So they picked me up, they're running me out. I'm thinking then, I'm like, well, I didn't die before, but this is probably gonna be when it's happening. A few hundred meters, and we get back to our compound, and then somebody from our CAT team, they came to pick me up, and one of the Marines in there was Corporal Zanowick.
And then later on in the day, after the firefight had stopped, Rocky and his unit were chosen to go back out there to do this battle damage assessment. And so they had to go in being very careful and making sure that they didn't hit any IEDs or anything new or old. And they got back to where they needed to be set up for this battle damage assessment, and one of the vehicles got stuck.
Which was common, happened all the time.
It was a bad situation. If you're going back into an area where there was a firefight earlier, you know the natives are still restless. Rocky didn't want any of his guys to get out of that truck. So Rocky got out of the truck, and he was going to hook it up to be pulled out, and he was looking up at his one buddy Fred, smiling at him, when he took a sniper shot to the head. The only good part was he didn't suffer. Another firefight ensued. Nobody else was hurt except Rocky.
So then when I got back, I found out, and it's hard to see somebody you hadn't really known that much. You'd known a little bit, but just made a really big impact on you in a time that was very scary and unpredictable, and just one little thing he did just stuck in my heart and in my mind, and so it tore me apart pretty good.
I got I am from a Marine. He says, my name is Daniel Erlinson, and I just wanted to say I was thinking about your son today and offer my condolences. And I reached back out to him, and I started a conversation, and I says, so, that's awesome. Thank you for reaching out to me. I appreciate it. You're always invited to our house, to our home, if you're ever in the Dayton area. And he says, I'm in Huber Heights. And I'm like, Huber
Ohio?
Heights, Ohio? That's right up the road. And he came with his wife, and we connected, and it was
good.
Yeah, it was healing. It was right. It was just right. And so that began our relationship with Daniel Erlinson.
Yeah.
And it became a family to me. I hadn't seen him since the Purple Heart ceremony, and I just came there, and it just felt like family again. I immediately got there, and we hugged, we cried. To me, it was just amazing. Out of all the places we could have moved in the United States, and I had no idea they lived here, and I moved 30 minutes away from them, so it's pretty incredible.
Last year, Wounded Warrior Weekend to Remember, we had the honor and the opportunity to sponsor Daniel Erlinson, who our son extracted from a firefight in 2011 on the day he was killed. And we went on this adventure. We went on this weekend to remember. And so Daniel shows up, and he's got a smile on his face, but he's a little bit timid. And there's all these warriors around, and it could be intimidating, I suppose, and when you have so many people coming together and everything. And Daniel was a little bit quiet about it and this and that. But the weekend started, and the activities started beginning, and as the weekend went on,
His grin grew.
His grin grew. There was a smile on his face. He started connecting with the other warriors.
But I think Daniel's biggest smile came that first Warrior weekend after he skydived.
He was smiling ear to ear. And he didn't stop smiling, I don't think, the whole rest of that day.
No, I was definitely intimidated and timid at first. I'm not a big fan of going a bunch in front of people I don't know. I really wasn't earlier, especially first after I got out. Skydiving had been something I'd wanted to do since I was as young as I can remember. So when the Zanowicks told me that was one of the things I was going to be able to do, I was like a kid. I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And so yeah, that first morning, the first time last year when I did it, I mean, that was literally the first time I had smiled like I did in years.
We lost our son, but we gained.
And we've embraced he and his wife, and they are always welcome and at our house anytime. And
Think of him as a son.
yeah.
I don't know, the way they accepted me and made me feel like family was something I hadn't felt in years as well.